The Carolina Hurricanes are set to take on the New Jersey's Devils tonight in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semis, and they are going to have their work cut out for them tonight as the Devils are going to be a pretty mad team after what happened in Game 1. We will detail what the Hurricanes need to do to come away with another win in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Friday afternoon. Don't forget to follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at LO_Hurricanes and myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. And also go subscribe over on YouTube. And tonight, the Hurricanes are, of course, taking on the New Jersey Devils in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. And this is going to be a very different game than we saw in Game 1, for sure. The Devils, they got embarrassed in Game 1. It was a 5-1 win for the Hurricanes. They scored twice in the first period. They scored early in the second to force a goalie change. And the Devils, they're going to be mad. They're going to be mad about that, and they're going to play like it. And the Hurricanes are going to have their work cut out for them, for sure. And the Hurricanes are really going to need to set the tone early for this, like they did in Game 1. And don't let the Devils set the tone early, because I feel like if the Devils are able to set the tone early in this game, the Devils could very well come away with the win here. And that's not what we want at all. And do we necessarily need a start like we had in Game 1? It would be great. I think everyone would agree on that, but that's not necessarily what we need here. The Hurricanes just need to set the tone, be dangerous, and force the Devils to play their game rather than the Devils doing that to the Hurricanes. That's going to be really, really key here for the Hurricanes. And like I said yesterday, one thing that the Hurricanes are also going to need to do is not let the Devils get in their head. And that's going to be important here. Very much kind of like how it was in the Islanders series, of how the Islanders would do some questionable stuff in between the whistles and after the whistles. That the Hurricanes are just going to need to be the bigger man, essentially, and just ignore that and keep it between the whistles. Don't do anything that could get them in trouble, and don't take stupid penalties and stuff like that, and give the Devils chances on the power play. But yeah, the Hurricanes are having a very lethal penalty kill. It's leading the playoff teams right now. It's operating at 95% success rate, and that's great. But as me and Trey said in the series preview, that the Devils are really going to have to be on their A game in the power play, and the Devils are going to know that. They're going to know, like, okay, this team beat the mess out of us in Game 1. When we get these power play opportunities, we're going to want to take advantage of them and try to find some holes in the Hurricanes penalty kill. And the Hurricanes, they're going to have to continue to operate at the level they are. And one thing that I did really like in Game 1 was how the offense from the blue line came back. That's going to be another really key piece to this game tonight. Is can that continue? Can we see Brady Shea and Brett Pesce? Can we see those guys come back? Like we've said, through the first round, through recapping the first round, through previewing the second round in Game 1. Brady Shea, he was a guy that carried a big load offensively during the regular season, and it's non-existent in the playoffs. So we're going to need that to continue here, and especially with how depleted the forward group is now. We're going to need that offense from the blue line. We're going to need them to be chipping in, scoring goals, setting up plays, racking up the assists. Yeah, Brent Burns, he had 5 assists in that first round series, and he looked good in game 1 as well. We're going to want that to continue from him. Again, Brady Shea, he's going to be a very, very big key piece here to the Hurricanes offense. Brett Pesce, you love seeing him show up on the score sheet as well. Always a welcome sight. Jacob Slavin, he was the lone defenseman that scored a goal in the first round. And again, like Brett Pesce, not necessarily a guy that goes out and scores a bunch of goals, but always a welcome sight whenever you do see him on the score sheet. And then you look at that third pairing, Shane Gostisbehere and Jalen Chatfield. Gostisbehere especially, really want him to be a force on the power play. He when he came over from Arizona at the deadline, he breathed a lot of life into the power play. And I do want to see that spark come back for the Hurricanes on the power play. It has been hit and miss in the playoffs. I do think, going back, and I do think I was a bit harsh on it in game 1. I feel like if they had, a lucky bounce here and there, they do get a power play goal. But, puck luck is exactly that. It's puck luck. They're really going to need to be on their A game and doing everything they can to be getting those power play goals and being dangerous, looking lethal, and having the Devils on their heels. That's going to be really important in Shane Gostisbehere. That's why he was brought in. He was brought in to be, you know, a guy that can quarterback power play and set stuff up. Again, we saw it. I want to see that again here. Brent Burns, another guy. That's what we're wanting from those guys, to be forces on the power play. And if they can do that tonight, that's going to be a very, very big help, because the special teams battle is very, very important. It was kind of a wash in game 1. Neither team scored on the power play. Both teams were perfect on the penalty kill. So the Hurricanes, I do feel like if they can win that battle again tonight, because I would say, yeah, they didn't score on the power play, but I do feel overall they won the special teams battle in game 1. If they can do that again, I do think that they stand a pretty darn good chance of winning here. But again, they are really going to need to set the tone early for this game. And again, like they did in game 1, that's going to be really, really important here, because again, the Devils, they're going to be playing pretty mad. They got embarrassed, and the Hurricanes, they're going to have their work cut out for them tonight. This is not going to be a repeat of game 1 by any stretch of the imagination. Now, there are definitely, we've talked about a couple guys already in Brady Shea, Brent Burns, those guys. I do feel they're going to need to, continue the momentum that they've been building. And there are definitely some other guys as well that I do want to see continue momentum that they've been building in the playoffs. And we will discuss that right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, a championship team is about making sure every player is a perfect fit. And it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you feel the need to get new parts and accessories, head over to Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. You're not having to go get a whole bunch of different parts. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check mark to know that the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win with the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Now, diving back into guys that need to continue to step up their game. Again, Brett Pesce, Brent Burns, Brady Shea. Do want to see those guys. Really just the defensemen as a whole. I really want to see them to continue the momentum that they've been building. During the regular season, they led the league with 59 goals in the regular season from the blue line. Brent Burns, Brady Shea, again, big parts of that. Now, they only had the one in the first round, like I said, coming from Jacob Slavin. I've already doubled that just in game 1. with Brady Shea and Brett Pesci both notching goals there. I do want that to continue into tonight's game. I want some offense to come from the blue line. That was a very key part of the Hurricanes team game in the regular season, sometimes to its detriment, but here and now in the playoffs, they're going to need that. That's going to be very, very big. And a reason that I do feel that it hasn't been there as much is because teams know that. They know that the Hurricanes offense runs through the blue line quite often, and they were limiting that in the first round, the Islanders were. And, the Devils, they're going to try to do the same tonight. They're going to try to limit that because they know how much offense runs through the blue line here. Now, on the flip side of that, we do need forwards to be stepping up as well. A guy that I say, was knocking on the door. Just felt like he was ready to break out in this in the playoffs. Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He was able to notch his first goal of the playoffs in game one. I do want to see him continue that momentum because he has been looking really good, and it feels like he was due for one, and he got that in game one. I want that to continue here. He really came into his own this season, especially in the back half of this season. I want to see that momentum that he's been building continue. Sebastian Aho, guy that's on a 4-game point streak right now. I want that to continue. He's the top guy now. He needs to play like the Hurricanes' top guy. Plain and simple. He's going to be a guy that the Hurricanes are going to look to in clutch moments. So he needs to be playing like the top guy, plain and simple. Seth Jarvis, another guy, he's tied for second with the Hurricanes in playoff goals right now. He ended up scoring what would be the game-winning goal in game one. I do want to see him to continue. Like, he's playing really, really good hockey right now. And another guy, he's one of the top guys for the team. He's a guy that needs to play like that. The playoffs are where guys need to step up their game big time so their season can continue. He's a guy that the Hurricanes, they're gonna look to. And he's shown he can do it, just like Sebastian Aho, Brady Shea, Brent Burns, all the guys we talked about. He's shown he can do it. So I do want to see him continue as well. Continue this momentum that he's building, be a threat out there for the Hurricanes. That's going to be very, very big. Jesper Foss, he's another guy that I do feel kind of flying under the radar a bit. He's had 2 points on Wednesday. The Hurricanes had 9 different players tally points. Jesper Foss, had a goal and assist. That was his third multi-point playoff game of his career and his first with the Hurricanes, which is crazy to think about, really. Jordan Martin, 2 assists in that game as well. And he's a guy that, the Hurricanes can rely on. He's not, the biggest, goal scorer by any stretch, but he had kind of a career year this year when it comes to offense. And, he's a guy I really want to see continue to play a big factor into the Hurricanes offense because one of my biggest praises from game one was just how good of a team game that they were playing, with the one knock I had at the time being the power play. Still would be a knock, but again, I was a bit too harsh on it following game one. But again, a good team game, that's going to be key here. That is going to be absolutely key because, again, I cannot stress this enough. This is not going to be a repeat of game one by any stretch of the imagination. That was not the Devils team we saw in the regular season that had them, like 113 points, I believe it was, and right on the Hurricanes' heels in terms of the Metro Division title, right up until the end of the season. At one point, they were tied with the Hurricanes for first. That's not the team we're not going to see game one Devils tonight. We're going to see the Devils that were a thorn in the Hurricanes' side in the regular season. That's what we're going to see tonight, and we're going to need guys like Jesper Foss, Jordan Martin, Sebastian Aho, Brady Shea, Brent Burns, guys up and down the lineup to be on their A game, and everyone pitching in offensively and defensively. That's going to be really, really big here. We've seen saves in the playoffs. that did not come from the goalie. It came from, a guy just diving into the net. We've seen it from Jacob Slavin. We've seen it from Seth Jarvis. Like, we've seen it from these guys before, and where, they just play, with desperation, not in terms of, their season, it's win or go home kind of thing, but like they want to win. They want to keep, their season on. They want to move on in the playoffs. They want to lift that Stanley Cup. That's the mindset that the Hurricanes need to have here. That's like, one more win. We're that much closer. We're that much closer to winning it all. That's the mindset that the Hurricanes need to have here tonight. Now, another guy that I do want, the Hurt to see out there tonight playing a big factor into the Hurricanes, win tonight is Martin Necas. He's another guy that had a career year standout player for the Hurricanes this year. I want to see him have a big game tonight. That's a guy that I really want to see him play a big factor for the Hurricanes tonight because, again, Devils, it's not going to be game one. This is going to be a different Devils team, and we're going to need the guy that had, arguably the best season for the Hurricanes. He led the team in points, and we need to see him tonight. And, not that he hasn't been a factor in the playoffs, but, here tonight in game two, we're going to need him. We're going to need him big time. And I think that, he realizes that. I think a lot of the Hurricanes realize that they need to come together as a group. They need to be, helping each other out. And again, I cannot stress it enough. Play a complete team game. I've said it countless times through the season, you guys, just how dangerous this team is when they are playing a complete team game. They can beat anyone whenever they're doing that. And even with a depleted roster like they have right now, you saw it in round one when they play team games. They can take control. Saw it in game one. They play a complete team game. They take control. They beat the crap out of you. And that's going to be something that they need to do tonight. Now, and sitting here thinking about it, the Hurricanes, again, do need to set the tone early. But with that, I do expect a fair amount of pushback from the Devils tonight. And they're really going to have to be on their A game to limit the Devils' chances tonight. That's going to be really important as well for them. And, we saw that in that like 10-minute stretch, after New Jersey made that goalie change in game one, how they felt like they were really getting some momentum on their side, and they were making pushes. Now the Hurricanes, I would expect that to be tenfold tonight because they're going to have that emotion from getting embarrassed in game one. So the Hurricanes are really going to have to be ready for that. Really be ready to play some top-notch defense, from the defense and from the forwards. Don't get caught on some awkward line changes. Make sure you're in your spot. Don't get caught where you shouldn't be and all that. We've seen that before. We saw that in round one where the Islanders were able to take advantage of some bad line changes and they were able to run away with some games. That one game where the Islanders scored like 4 goals in like the final 5 minutes or something like that. That started with a bad line change. So the Hurricanes are really going to have to be on their A game and not give the Devils any sort of chance to gain momentum in this game and limit when they are. Because I feel like the Devils they're not going to get shut out, but I do feel like, one goal can always make a difference. Look at game one. The Hurricanes were able to really get at it early in the game, and it felt like that set the tone and really gave the Hurricanes an edge. And they're like, heck yeah, we got this. This is our house. We're winning this game. And that's the mindset that the Hurricanes need to have tonight is, this is our house. This is our game, and we're going to win it. Because, Sunday, when we're up in New Jersey, that's the mindset the Devils are going to have. They're going to be like, this is our house. You're not going to come in here and beat us. We know how you've struggled on the road in the playoffs. Yeah, you got some wins this season, but they're gonna also look at last season and be like, "Hey, you can't win on the road in the playoffs." So, that's gonna be something that the Hurricanes need to be ready for, and they're gonna be they're gonna need to be on their A game tonight, that's for sure, and, you know, with the team tonight of who we are potentially going to see, it's looking like we're not gonna see any changes, but we will dive into what we can expect from the Hurricanes lineup right after this quick break, folks. Now, diving into the Hurricanes lineup for tonight. Again, not looking like we're going to see any changes. With it being the forwards, with it being the defenseman, with it being the goalie. Yeah, on the top line, no changes. Steph Nason, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis. Then on the second line, you got Jordan Martin, Jesper Kotkaniemi, Jesper Foss. On the third line, you got Jack Drury, Jordan Stahl, and Martin Necas. On the fourth line, you got Derek Stepan, Paul Stastny, and Jesse Puljarvi. Those are I got no complaints with any of those. And you also know Rod Brind'amour, this is just kind of what's on paper right now. This stuff is going to be fluid. It's going to change during the game. We all know that. And one thing we didn't talk about in game one was how good the fourth line was. Fourth line was really good. They played a really good game in game one, and I want to see that continue tonight as well. I do like Martin Necas, with Jack Drury and Jordan Stahl. That's going to be fun. I do expect during the game for him to potentially slot up on the top line with Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis, especially if things start to go sideways and the Hurricanes are struggling offensively. I could definitely see that being the case as well. And obviously, this stuff is subject to change. Between now at 11:45 in the morning to game time tonight at 8 o'clock. This stuff can change. Yes, Sri Kotkaniemi, Martinook again, 2 assists in game one. If he can continue that, Jesper Kotkaniemi, another guy, he can continue the momentum he's been building as well. On the defense, again, no changes there either. Jacob Slavin, Brett Burns, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, Shane Gostisbehere, and Jalen Chatfield. Again, we talked at length about how important offense from the blue line is going to be tonight, and that is something that is really going to have to be in full force tonight. Brady Shea, Brent Burns, playing big roles on that on 5-on-5. Shane Gostisbehere and Brent Burns on the power play. That's going to be really, really important for them. And I do think that these guys realize that, you look at, the forward lines, it's not that they're bad. It's just that they're missing a lot of names. You're missing Teuvo Teravainen. You're missing Andrei Svechnikov. You're missing Max Pacioretty. You're missing these guys that were supposed to be carrying big loads at this time of the year. Now you don't have them. They're going to need all of these guys to step up. Steph Nason has been a really good piece on the power play. You're going to want him to step up. We talked at length about Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Jesper Kotkaniemi, Martin Necas. We know that they're going to have to play big roles. Jesper Foss, another guy that's doesn't necessarily grab the headlines and score all the goals, but he's shown he can. Jordan Stahl, he's a guy that I really, really want to see start to step it up big. Not that he's been playing bad, but we are used to in the playoffs now that, in the last couple months of the regular season into the playoffs, he really elevates his game offensively. I really do want to see that from him now because that's something we're going to need, especially the longer the playoffs go on. Longer this series, next one after that. That's something we're going to need. Now, in goal tonight, it is looking like it will be Frederik Andersen again. Now, we talked about that after game one, that I could see it going either way, whether or not they wanted to do the rotating goalie thing, whether they wanted to roll with Freddie again. And I'd see nothing. I don't think you could go wrong with either, really, whether it be Freddie, whether it be Auntie. You're not going to go wrong with either. And you have Frederik Andersen. He's had 2 really, really good games. Yesterday we talked about what his stats were. He's 2-0 in the playoffs so far with a .95 goals against and a .962 save percentage. he hasn't given you a reason not to play him. It wasn't like, Schmidt and, game 1 where you're like, "Alright, let's make a change." It's not like that. I expect again, it hasn't been like that for the Hurricanes at all. So, could you go wrong with playing Auntie Ranta instead? No, because he's another guy. Hasn't given you a reason not to play him. It's just, Auntie Ranta started 5 games in a row. So give Freddie a few starts in a row. I do think, come game 3, you do maybe see, a change, but that's just something we're gonna have to worry about in game 3. You know, this lineup, it hasn't given me a reason not to change it, or it hasn't given you a reason to change it. Stuff is working right now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? So, it with that, again, it'll probably be fluid during the game. We could see some changes. Again, I expect to see Martin Necas play on that top line, like him and Nazen switch up. I could see that happening. I could see Martinook and Foss sliding down with Jordan Stahl. I could see, or you have Jordan Stahl, moving up as well. I could see that happening. But we're just gonna have to wait and see with that. Hopefully, it doesn't get to a point where it's bad, and that's why we're having to change. I hope it's just kind of one of those things that just Rod decides to do during the game, as he tends to do sometimes. But ultimately, we're just gonna have to wait till the game tonight. It is an 8 p.m. start time, so a little bit later than usual for the Hurricanes. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be loud for sure, and it's going to be a very hard fought game. Again, I've said it all episode long. This is not going to be a repeat of game 1. The Devils are going to be playing really mad. They got embarrassed in game 1. They're gonna be looking for revenge. And the Hurricanes are going to have to be ready for that. Plain and simple. They're going to have to be on their A game, ready for the Devils to come out with a big push as soon as that puck drops in the first period. They're going to have to be ready. And the Hurricanes are going to have to force the Devils to play their game, not the other way around. But we will talk all about how game 2 ends up playing out in the next episode. So make sure you are following the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes, myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on YouTube. Enjoy the game tonight, folks. If you're at PNC Arena, make sure you're cheering loud. If you're watching at home, cheer loud. If you're watching somewhere out on the town, cheer loud. And as always, let's go Canes.